Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled Revenge of the Farmer. Apparently my grandfather was an absolute legend. This petty revenge story takes place sometime in the mid-1980s. It has been told to me by my father, so exaggeration is not exactly out of the question. A little background: my grandpa was father to 10 kids. He owned and operated a small-scale dairy farm as well as many hay fields throughout a small town in New England. He was quite savvy and purchased land that would be prime for development in the future, in other words, land along a busy thoroughfare. One of my uncles, who was about 25 at the time, approached my grandfather and proposed opening a small driving range on one of the existing hay fields. My grandpa thought it was a good idea, so he agreed and wanted to help his son start the business. For those unaware, a driving range is a place to practice golfing. The setup would be simple: keep the hayfields as they are, but keep the grass trimmed short, add a few flags, distance markers, netting along the border, a small gravel parking lot, space for about 15 tees, and a 20 feet by 20 feet, 6 meters by 6 meters shed. The field chosen was adjacent to the commercial hub of the town, which was just a small strip mall at the time, town-owned forests and one residential neighbor. Plans were drawn up and the process was moving along nicely. The town was friendly to small business, however, the land needed a zone change from agriculture residential to open space recreation. In order to change the zoning from agriculture/residential to open space recreation, all abutting neighbors must agree to the change. The hayfield in question is about 9 acres, rectangular in shape and surrounded by forest on 3 sides and a road on the 4th. In the end, all abutters agreed except the one residential neighbor. This neighbor vehemently disagreed even with a 30-foot forest buffer, guaranteed zero disturbance from the driving range, in other words, stray golf balls, and the simple fact the site would remain as an open field. Without their approval though, the business could not move forward even with the approval of 99% of the abutters. My grandfather soon came up with a somewhat diabolical idea to change the mind of this particularly stubborn neighbor. Every Sunday after church, my grandpa would load up the manure spreader and take his tractor directly toward the hayfield in question. Typically only done once a year, my grandfather fertilized the crap out of that hayfield each and every Sunday. He would pile on the rank-smelling cow manure and was sure to fertilize when the wind was blowing just right. Over the next few months, my grandfather continued this process like clockwork, long past the appropriate time to fertilize and well in the hot summer months. After months of tasting cow crap with every breath they took, the neighbors finally agreed to the zoning change. In the end, the driving range opened successfully, the neighbors were happy and the grass was very green. 40 or so years later, the driving range is still operating successfully and the neighbors happily lived out their lives in the home. And guys, I suppose the neighbor in this case was not aware of the phrase "never mess with a farmer", because he definitely should have known better. And the next one is titled Another Bad Neighbor Story. So this happened many years ago during the winter in my very snowy home state. I was moved out of my apartment and staying at my parents' for a couple weeks, waiting for the new place to become available. To help out a little, since my father is disabled, I would do all of the shoveling for my parents. They have a double lot property in the city, so there's a lot to shovel, and it happened to be an incredibly snowy couple of weeks. And most days, if I beat the next door neighbor out, I would shovel his walkway too. He is a really kind older man and a family friend. But the neighbor on the other side was a massive douche nozzle, DN. The whole block disliked him and loved my parents as they have lived there for 35 years and I grew up with all of their kids. He just moved in the year before and would call the cops on my parents for their dog barking, and the cops came 2 times during the first summer. My parents were very good about getting the dog inside right away if he started to bark, except for a couple times where my dad let the dog out, made his way to the bathroom upstairs and had to slowly move through the house to get the dog in. Takes him a couple minutes to get down the stairs though. The neighbor even installed a noise-activated camera to try and give the cops some evidence. According to my parents, this guy on more than one occasion left his husky outside overnight howling to get back in, which my father or another neighbor had to call them to let their dog in. Each time the cops showed up, my parents never got a citation and the neighbor handed them a 5-minute video of their dog barking on many different occasions. The city law is that the dog must be taken in if it barks continuously for 5 minutes. Not 5 minutes of barking over the course of several months. Anyways, that is how he pissed off my parents. I don't know how he pissed off the rest of the neighborhood. The DN owned a lawn maintenance and snow removal company, and it must have been pretty successful since it is one of the nicer neighborhoods. And his property has a driveway at the front that goes all the way to the garage at the back where he and his family always parked. They never parked in the street. He did not do anything for himself and would have his company take care of his yard and garden in the summer and the snow in the winter. But like I said, this was the snowiest 2 weeks we have had in years. We are talking close to a foot of snow every other day, and his company must have been swamped with customers since his sidewalks were not touched in the whole 2 weeks I was there. Since my dad is disabled, I would shovel to his car parked on the street and shovel a walkway through the grass to get to his car easier. And you cannot save street parking spots, I know, but most houses on the block had driveways like DN's, so not many people would park on the street, certainly not in front of their friend of 35 years who is disabled. But DN did not give a damn, and any chance he could, he would park in the perfectly shoveled spot I made for my dad. He was already proven to be unreasonable to my parents. They said talking to him would accomplish nothing. And yes, I could have called the cops because he is legally required to shovel the public sidewalk in front of his house a certain amount of hours after each snowfall, but that was not petty enough for me, and my parents were not that type of neighbor. So probably the 5th time of this happening, we get home after going out to eat, where my dad and I had a few drinks, my mother was driving, and there is his car again, not in front of his house, not in his driveway, not in his empty garage, but right in front of my parents' house and the only car on the street. So I get to shoveling, started right away by making a new path for my father in his new spot. But all that snow had to go somewhere, so what better place than all around DN's car? The street had not been plowed yet anyways. That path was not enough snow though, but hey, the street hasn't been plowed, why don't I help the city out a little and clear some of that too? Took quite a while, cleared a good chunk of the street and left a 5-foot wide, 4-foot tall wall around DN's SUV and a little thicker around the doors. Woke up the next morning and looked out the window. DN's car is gone, must have gone to work, grabbed the shovel again to clear up the massive snow wall I built so the city didn't have to. And the footprints in the snow told me everything. He cleared off the top with his hands to open the back hatch, stomped into the now 2-foot wall to get into the back, must have climbed through the car with his snowy boots on, and just plowed through the wall in the front of his car. Safe to say, he never parked there again, asked my parents every snowfall. He never called the cops about the dog again, but I think that had to do with the conversation he had with the police when he showed them the video. And also, he moved out a year later. New neighbors are nice, and I have no idea why someone would think the dog's amount of barking was excessive. I shovel for them now from time to time when I visit. And yeah, ripe stars, let's hope that neighbor learned his lesson. And I guess some people only learn something like this the hard way. You can be nice to them and try to be understanding and patient, but at some point being nice and being patient just isn't enough. Either way, if you have watched until here, I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and maybe post some star emojis in the comments if you want to support the channel. Thank you so much in advance, your help is very much appreciated. And the next one is titled, When a neighbor's loud music threatens to ruin our party, we cut off their power and forgot about it for 6 days. I was reminded by a post about someone with noisy music neighbors about my experience living in a house in Arizona. I don't think I would qualify this as pro-revenge, but this was 15 years ago and I and 4 other people I worked with lived in the same house in Chandler, a town on the south side of the Phoenix metro. On the other side of our back fence was an Indian reservation, desert as far as the eye could see, typical Arizona fare saguaros and scrub bush, basically Satan's butthole, but twice as hot. Our nearest neighbor was about 50 yards away. Everyone in our house worked in a restaurant together and we are all in our mid-20s. This was the party house. So it's not exactly like we were the saints of the neighbors, but we kept our music at a tolerable level, I think. Being as we were partiers, the neighbors who played deafening death metal at all hours, mind you, I said it was a good 50 yards away and we could still hear it outside plain as day. I think they had giant concert speakers. I always pictured Marty in Back to the Future, giant ass speakers. So the music never really bothered us unless it was super late at night or early in the morning, just a minor annoyance. There was a menagerie of comers and goers from this house at all hours and times. Always obvious tweakers, meth heads, skinny, awful skin, some are teeth, some are here, some are there, just really awful scabs of humanity. We all knew what was going on there. As long as the house didn't stink or blow up, we just ignored it. However, always the death metal. Random times for at least an hour on a stint. Guar, obituary, cannibal corpse, napalm death. Like I said, it didn't generally bother us. We left them alone as they left us alone as well. Except once. One night we are having a big Lebowski fest at our house. Everyone dresses up like the dude or Walter. We drink copious amounts of Caucasians, White Russians, quote movie lines and watch the movie together. We would spend most of the cool fall day, a rarity in hell's a-hole, but it is dry heat, so yeah, setting it up. Outdoor theater screen, speakers, bar. My friend had even set up a zipline and white sheets so some girls would give it a go like Mo D in the movie Nude. Hopefully, one lady eventually did. It was glorious. This was sadly pre-camera phones. About an hour after the sun goes down, people are starting to arrive. Myself dressed as a pinky toe, my girlfriend dressed as an eagle's tape. The death metal starts up. Damn, it seems louder than usual simply because we were supposed to be the ones making the noise outside. So my roommates dressed as the dude and Walter went on a mission. They thought they could kill the power at the neighbors and save the party. Fueled with liquid courage, off they go. Jump the fence, throw the main power switch. The music stops, everyone cheers, roommates get back without having been spotted. Mission successful, we have a great party including nude zipline painting, again glorious, we never gave the tweakers a second thought. 3 days later, a tweaker I swear I've never seen knocks on our door. He's standing in the doorway picking off invisible ants and asks if we have seen anyone creeping around his house. I shoot a look to my girlfriend and we both do the holy crap look of sudden memory. No one ever turned their power back on. The tweaker explains the power is out, but the power company swears there's no outage. We tell him we've got no idea and he stumbles home. I was not going over that fence and most of my roommates had gone for a long weekend in Mexico. So another 3 days later when everyone is home, we get a plan together. My personal plan was, they will eventually figure it out, don't turn it back on. But my roommates are feeling guilty, I guess I'm the a-hole. Fueled with liquid courage once again, a different roommate this time jumps the fence very late at night. Like time matters to meth heads, in order to ensure they were asleep, this was our thought process. Must have been 3 to 4 AM, dressed in all black like a ninja. He throws the switch back on. Death metal like nothing ever happened, started right back up without skipping a beat. Lights blazing, metal screaming, it must have scared the literal crap out of whoever was in there. 3 people ran outside like there was a fire. My roommate is now trapped in their backyard. He didn't have to worry about noise obviously, but there was suddenly a lot of light. He hops the fence into the desert beyond and 2 tweakers who spot him give chase. He got away but returned to our house covered in scrapes, cactus needles and bruises an hour later. We are all laughing our asses off. Problem solved. My girlfriend went out of her way a few weeks later to speak with the guy who came to our door, sort of do a check-in and see if they know. She asked him about the power, saying she noticed it was back on. He told her that the police had turned it off as a punishment for the loud music. What? And if it happens again, the loud music, the police would turn off the power for 30 days, not just a week. We have no idea where they came up with this info beyond drugs. I lived in that house 2 more years and I never heard death metal again. And the next one is titled, My neighbor called the cops because we decided to clean our apartment. So, my boyfriend and I moved into an apartment in August. It is older, so the floors are super creaky. According to our lease, we are obligated to cover 90% of any room with carpet, except bathroom and kitchen, to help with noise. It turned out our apartment was previously managed as a dorm by the local college, so the floors already have a layer of super thin, crappy carpet. We also laid down more rugs to help with noise cancellation. Our downstairs neighbor moves in about a month later and within a month of that starts banging on her ceiling when we get too rowdy. The first couple times it happened super late in the living room. Our apartments have the same plan. We were moving around after midnight the first time. Later she came to talk to us and asked us to keep it down at night. Sure, fair enough. The next time was when we walked in from the airport at 10 PM. She came up, banged on the door and talked over my explanation. I told her I was sorry and asked when she was hearing the noise, assuming it was just the cat running around at night. No, she tells me that she knows it is not the cat, she knows it is us and she does not live alone. Okay, weird, but whatever. We started going to bed earlier as we settled into the apartment and our jobs, but the banging only continued. For months she would hit her ceiling / our floor whenever we walked around. Bed at 10? Bang. Wake up at 5:30 for work? Bang. Sitting on the couch but decide you want snacks? Bang. Around Christmas she comes up to our door again. My boyfriend answered and this time I recorded and I am so glad I did. This woman came up and looked my boyfriend in the eye and said,
"You have to stop following me."
What?
"I know, it's not the cat or the dog or your girlfriend, because I know your footsteps. I don't know how you figured it out, but you figured out how to listen to where I am, and you're following me around my apartment, and I'm sick of it."
My boyfriend calmly responded that she sounds crazy and that we don't care about her. She again reminded us that she does not live alone. Her boyfriend is a small Latino man in his 60s who is very polite and has never said a word to us. Cool, she's insane, whatever. The banging continued with us stomping every time we heard it. She did not like that, but it made it more fun. We had already explained the situation to the landlord and the super and they were on our side. Our town was the first in the US to be locked down under quarantine, so for the first few days the banging gradually increased until one day this woman lost her mind. I will admit that we are early risers on the weekends. On this particular Sunday we ended up waking up super early but not doing much for the first few hours. We drank some coffee and sat on the couch until almost 11. At that point we decided to get up and clean the apartment. Homegirl went apecrap. She had to be running from one end of her apartment to the other. She's banging her ceiling so hard that we are convinced she's damaging it. At one point I hear what sounds like muffled yelling after she followed me into the bedroom. We had plans that day, so we ignored her, finished cleaning and started to leave. She must have been waiting for us to leave, because for the first time ever she walked out of her apartment right as we go to her landing. I was holding the dog while waiting for my boyfriend to come down as she starts to descend the stairs. Of course, she decides to turn around and say something. Crazy woman.
"Tell your boyfriend to cut it out."
Me? Cut out what? Walking? You are hitting the ceiling because of me and the dog moving, not him. Crazy woman continues to spew some other dumb stuff as my boyfriend gets down to me. She proceeded to stay exactly 3 steps ahead of him, slowing us all the way down the stairs. She tried to block us going out the door at the bottom, but backed off when he just did not stop moving. She's continuing to yell at him all the way to the parking lot. Of myself and my boyfriend, he's typically the hothead while I am the calm one. Amazingly, he kept his calm the whole time, calling her only a crazy lady and ignoring her as he walked past her and her car to the dumpster. As I passed her car, she decided to continue talking to me, and I was just pissed not to engage. CB:
I'm serious, it's done.
Me: okay, what do you want us to do? Crawl? I already told you we have a 60-pound dog and we are all just walking around. CB talking while I talked so I don't hear everything.
And you need to remember that I don't live alone.
Me: okay woman, neither do I. You see my boyfriend right there, so what is your point? By the way, that is the 3rd or 4th time you have said that, and that could be taken as a threat. Crazy woman:
You think it's a threat? Fine, it is.
Me: cool, I'm calling the cops. CB:
Okay, me too.
We both call the cops and they pull up. They talk to her first and then come to talk to us. I don't know what she told them, but when they came to talk to us, I told them everything she had said and done for the past 6 months. The officer explained that it was a civil matter that would have to be dealt with by the landlord, but ensured us that they explained to her that it is perfectly acceptable to walk around your apartment at 11 AM on a Sunday. They also told her not to knock on our door ever again and that she's not allowed to bang on our floor over footsteps at any point. For a couple nights, she got back at us by banging at 1:30 AM to wake us up. We had already reached out to our landlord again, and this time he told us he would see what her problem is. That is still not the last of his troubles with her though. We ended up talking to the people that lived below her and telling them about the banging. It turns out they have heard it this whole time and had no idea what it was. Now that they know, they have also reported her to the landlord. The banging has stopped, we don't expect her lease to be renewed, and we may end up in a better apartment in the next couple months. And sadly, Ripe Stars, we have already reached the end of the video. However, as usual, if you cannot get enough of my videos, I would suggest you to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will show up very soon on the left side of the screen. In addition, please don't forget to check out my Patreon at patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more exclusive Reddit content. Mainly, at least at the moment, just no mother-in-law videos. In addition guys, I would just like to say we are super close to 50,000 subscribers, so I would really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel. It would be a dream come true to finally reach 50k. Thank you so much in advance, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.